The return of Godzilla had earned enough money to be considered decently successful, so Tomoyuki Tanaka decided to do a sequel, eventually. There would be a 5-year gap between the return of Godzilla and the new movie. This film came to be when Toho held a contest revolving around the next Godzilla film, and the winner was a dentist. The dentist submitted a script about Godzilla fighting a giant plant monster, and although the basic ideas are the same, the finished film was much different from the dentist's original script. Now that the basic concept was laid out, the crew was given the task of redesigning Godzilla, which wasn't that hard. But they were also given the task of designing Biollante, which was the hard part since they had no reference. Production would begin in August of 1989. We now enter the second film of the Godzilla Heisei era. This is my review of 1989's Godzilla vs. Biollante. The movie begins with computers monitoring Godzilla's status, referring to him as G. It is accompanied by some awesome background music that reminds me of both Jaws and Predator. Various companies are searching for Godzilla cells, and we can tell they're very determined to get it, with them even shooting at each other at one point. Again, we get someone who looks like Japanese Terminator, and he just demolishes those fools and steals the Godzilla cells. I don't get why everyone was so eager to get the Godzilla cells in the movie, maybe to profit off them? But how are you supposed to make money off a giant radioactive lizard's DNA? Anyway, we are introduced to our main character who has a daughter named Erica. He then goes to some sort of factory where they're storing the Godzilla cells. Meanwhile, 2 meddling kids break into Erica's dad's lab and they appear to be looking for something. But that same Terminator-looking guy from earlier finds out about this and begins to attack them. Apparently, Erica died not too long ago and was transformed into a plant monster that got mutated by Godzilla's cells. I think that's right. You'll have to check my math. Erica, or now Biollante, wastes little time with those meddling kids and kills one, but the other one jumps out a window. The Terminator-looking guy is almost killed by Biollante, but stabs it with a knife, which makes it retreat. There's an awesome scene with a bunch of kids holding up drawings of Godzilla with the Big G's theme playing in the background. Sadly, it doesn't last long. The original soundtrack for this film was composed by Koichi Sugiyama, and it also takes tracks by Akira Ifukube. Sadly, only a few tracks from the album are available on Spotify. We soon see that Biollante has grown to Godzilla size, this being her rose form. In another thrilling and epic scene, a volcanic eruption starts to occur, and then Godzilla emerges with his main theme playing in the background. The military begins to attack Godzilla, but as usual, their arsenal has no effect on him and he easily takes care of them. The government sends in the Super X-2 to attack Godzilla, an upgraded version of the Super X from the Return of Godzilla. It is able to absorb and shoot back Godzilla's atomic breath, and since Godzilla's such an idiot, he just keeps shooting his atomic breath. This method eventually defeats Godzilla, sort of. Once Godzilla wakes up, he starts to head towards Biollante, attracted to her because they share the same cells. Godzilla heads in the water to duke it out with Biollante, and although she starts to win towards the beginning half of the battle, Godzilla turns the tables and uses his atomic breath heavily to defeat her. And with the finishing blow, Biollante bursts up in flames. You may have won the battle, Godzilla, but you haven't won the war. Kenpachiro Satsuma would return to play Godzilla, and the new monster Biollante would be played by Musashi Takagumi. Thankfully, they brought back that awesome roar from the Return of Godzilla. And Biollante's roar sounds more like a call. Biollante's rose form sort of reminds me of the Demogorgon from Stranger Things. It also vaguely reminds me of Audrey too. Anyway, back to the movie. One of our main characters, Miki Saigasa, is brought to a helipad with Godzilla approaching. This sounds like a very stupid decision, but since Miki has a psychic link with Godzilla, the government is hoping she can overpower him, which still doesn't make a lot of sense. Surprisingly, Godzilla spares Miki, which isn't like him, but it'd also be kind of stupid if Miki just died right then and there. But Godzilla has bigger fish to fry because he has to begin his daily attack on Tokyo. The military doesn't really do anything for a lot of Godzilla's attack, which is probably just a lazy writing mistake, but I like it because it means more Godzilla screen time. The military eventually sends in the Super X-2, but someone makes the stupid mistake of opening the fire mirror, which makes it easy for Godzilla to destroy the aircraft with his atomic breath. Goro Gondo, one of the military soldiers, is in Godzilla's area and insults him before he is inevitably killed. As tons of sparkling dots come down from the sky, the earth begins to shake and Biollante reforms. This new version of Biollante would also have a new roar, this time sounding a lot more beastly. Biollante immediately gains the upper hand and launches her tentacle-like plants at Godzilla. But Godzilla uses his atomic breath heavily to keep them from making contact. But Biollante doesn't give up there and keeps firing her tentacles at Godzilla. Eventually, Godzilla gives up with his atomic breath and reveals a new ability, his nuclear pulse attack. Eventually, Godzilla just resorts to shooting his atomic breath at Biollante as many times as possible, and it works. With the finishing blow, Biollante is reduced to those sparkling little dots and ascends into the sky. And as for Godzilla, those bacteria missiles Goro Gondo shot at him earlier temporarily knock him out. And if you thought there'd be a happy ending for Erica's dad, nope. The Terminator-looking guy returns once again and shoots him in the chest. But he meets his demise when he steps on a giant landmine. Godzilla vs. Biollante was released on December 16th, 1989, and despite all the work put into it, it wasn't a big success. Probably due to the lack of promotion for the movie. Although, over the years it has become a fan favorite, and for the most part the special effects still hold up today. I like this movie, and it's one of my favorites of the Heisei era. But due to the small success, the director, Kazuki Omori, thought it needed more science fiction. Next we dive into probably the most bonkers Godzilla movie of all time. Stay tuned for my review of 1991's Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah.